Did you know that 97% of people who buy self-help books never implement what they learn? Harvard research shows that knowledge without implementation is the #1 predictor of lifelong underachievement. In this video we'll explore what Jim Rohn called the action gap, the invisible force keeping you stuck where you are. Jordan Peterson's research reveals why knowing what to do isn't enough, and I'll share the 3 proven techniques that bridge this gap. Warning: the third technique, which I'll reveal only at the end, completely contradicts conventional wisdom but transforms results almost overnight. Have you ever wondered why some people achieve incredible success while others remain stuck in mediocrity despite having access to the same information? The answer lies in what Jim Rohn brilliantly identified as the action gap. That invisible space between knowing and doing that determines your destiny. Jim Rohn often shared the library card example. Only 3% of Americans have a library card, despite it being completely free. Think about that. Information that could transform lives is readily available, yet 97% never take even this simple step. The statistics are even more shocking when we look at how many people know exactly what they should do versus how many actually do it. As Jordan Peterson explains in his lectures, most people fall into the trap of comparing themselves to others rather than comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. The only comparison that leads to meaningful progress. Let me share 5 powerful techniques that will help you bridge this gap forever. I'll start by revealing Jim Rohn's law of diminishing intent, the principle that states, when the idea is hot and the emotion is strong, that's the time to act. The longer you wait, the less likely you'll ever take action. You'll also discover Jordan Peterson's concept of competence hierarchies and his powerful miniaturization technique that transforms overwhelming goals into achievable actions. We'll explore the environmental design strategy used by top performers, the revolutionary identity shift technique, and finally, the social acceleration method that has transformed the lives of countless individuals. A counterintuitive approach I'll reveal in detail throughout this video. By the end of our time together, you'll understand why the most disciplined people you know actually use less willpower than everyone else, and exactly what separates the 3% who act from the 97% who only dream. You'll have 5 specific actionable techniques you can implement immediately to close your own action gap. Take a moment and rate yourself from 1 to 10. How big is the gap between what you know you should do and what you actually do in your daily life? Let's dive deeper into Jim Rohn's law of diminishing intent. When you first learn something valuable, maybe from a book or seminar, you feel that surge of motivation. That's when your intention is strongest. But with each passing hour, that intention diminishes. The successful 3% understand this law and act immediately while the emotion is hot. The psychology behind the action gap goes deeper than most realize. The first major mental block is what Jordan Peterson calls the comfort illusion. We avoid necessary discomfort now only to face greater suffering later. As Jim Rohn wisely observed, we must all suffer one of 2 things: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Studies from the University of Chicago show that humans consistently overestimate the discomfort of taking action. We build up tasks in our minds to be far more difficult or painful than they actually are when we finally do them. Neurologically, there's a fascinating explanation for the knowledge-action gap. When we learn something new, our brains release dopamine, creating a satisfaction reward merely from acquiring knowledge. This creates a false sense of progress. We feel accomplished simply because we learned something even if we never apply it. Jordan Peterson's neuropsychology research reveals how these motivation and action pathways work in our brains. Knowledge acquisition triggers one pathway, but action requires engaging a completely different neural circuit. Consider the case of Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. Before becoming America's youngest self-made female billionaire, Blakely spent 7 years selling fax machines door-to-door while repeatedly failing to break into other careers. What separated her from countless others with business ideas? When she cut the feet out of her pantyhose to create a prototype of her shapewear idea, she didn't wait for perfect conditions. As she told CNBC, "I'd never taken a business class, never worked in fashion or retail. I just needed to solve a problem." While others would have researched endlessly or waited for the perfect moment, Blakely embodied Jim Rohn's principle of acting immediately on a hot idea. Have you ever felt that surge of motivation while learning something new, only to do absolutely nothing with it? What if that cycle of learn but don't apply is costing you more than just progress? Identify one thing you've learned in the past month that you haven't implemented yet. This becomes your test case for bridging your action gap. Jim Rohn's first solution is straightforward. Act when the idea is hot and the emotion is strong. Capture that initial motivation and immediately take a small action, any action, that commits you to the path. But what happens when you miss that initial window of motivation? This is where most people give up completely, but the successful 3% use something Jordan Peterson calls miniaturization, a counterintuitive approach that completely transforms results. The second and third mental blocks that keep people stuck are what I call the magnitude mistake and the perfection trap. Jordan Peterson addresses these directly in his concept of cleaning your room as the starting point for transformation. He emphasizes that the size of your action matters far less than the fact of taking action. Jim Rohn modernized the ancient wisdom, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. He taught that seemingly insignificant actions, when taken consistently, compound into extraordinary results. Meanwhile, research shows how perfectionism acts as a shield from action and vulnerability. We avoid doing unless we can do it perfectly. Now for the second secret, Jordan Peterson's competence hierarchies. Peterson explains that competence builds in a hierarchy. Small skills lead to bigger ones. When you master simple tasks first, you create momentum that carries you to more complex achievements. Let's contrast how the 97% and the 3% approach change. The 97% say, I need to completely overhaul my diet, become overwhelmed, take no action. The 3% say, I'll replace my afternoon soda with water, achieve an easy win, build momentum. Jim Rohn captured this perfectly. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Science confirms this, showing that small wins trigger dopamine release, creating an addictive cycle of progress. The first implementation technique is what Peterson calls miniaturization, breaking down any goal into ridiculously achievable micro-actions. We see this principle clearly in the career of Jerry Seinfeld, who developed his "don't break the chain" method. When asked how he became such a successful comedian, Seinfeld revealed he wrote one joke every single day, no matter how small, and marked it on a calendar. He focused not on writing brilliant comedy but simply on not breaking the chain of daily action. This miniaturization approach led him to become one of the most successful comedians in American history. The second implementation technique is environmental design. The 3% don't rely on motivation. They design their environment to make action inevitable. Consider former President Barack Obama, who revealed in his memoir that he wore only gray or blue suits to reduce decision fatigue. As he explained to Vanity Fair, I don't want to make decisions about what I'm eating or wearing because I have too many other decisions to make. Similarly, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg adopted his trademark gray t-shirt uniform for the same reason. These successful Americans understand that willpower is limited, so they design their environment to make important actions automatic. Which of your environments is currently designed for action, and which is designed for avoidance? Your kitchen? Your office? Your bedroom? The techniques I've shared so far work powerfully, but they still rely partly on willpower. In the next chapter, I'll reveal counterintuitive techniques that eliminate the need for willpower entirely by addressing the final two mental blocks. The fourth and fifth mental blocks are the identity illusion and the isolation factor. Jordan Peterson explains that you're not who you think you are. Our self-image creates artificial limitations that keep us stuck. If you identify as someone who's always struggled with money, taking wealthy actions feels inauthentic. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." This points to how isolation or the wrong social circle maintains your status quo. Research shows how shame prevents action. We avoid trying because failure would confirm our worst fears about ourselves. The identity shift technique involves changing your self-talk from "I want to be" to "I am becoming." Instead of "I want to be someone who exercises," say, "I am becoming someone who prioritizes health." Jordan Peterson calls this voluntarily confronting what you're afraid of. You step into a new identity by taking actions consistent with it, even when uncomfortable. Consider the incredible transformation of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Before becoming one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors, Johnson experienced significant failure. After being cut from the Canadian Football League, he had just $7 in his pocket. As he told The Hollywood Reporter, "I looked in my pocket and I had $7. Wow, $7 to my name. I've got to do something and I've got to do it now." Instead of seeing himself as a failed football player, he shifted his identity to, "I am becoming a wrestler." He constructed a new identity by taking consistent actions aligned with his new path, despite having no wrestling background. This identity shift technique propelled him from $7 to a $320 million net worth. Who would you be if you consistently did what you know you should do? Take 5 seconds to picture that version of yourself clearly. The social acceleration method leverages relationships to close the action gap. While the 97% hide their goals out of fear of failure, the 3% publicly declare their intentions and create accountability. Research from the American Society of Training and Development shows that having an accountability partner increases your chance of success by 65%. Oprah Winfrey's career demonstrates this principle perfectly. Despite a traumatic childhood and numerous setbacks, Winfrey attributes much of her success to her relationship with her mentor, the late Maya Angelou. In countless interviews, Winfrey has explained how Angelou held her accountable and pushed her to higher standards. As Winfrey told E.T., "She was there for me always, guiding me through some of the most important years of my life." This social acceleration method, finding someone who holds you to a higher standard, helped transform Winfrey from a troubled youth to one of America's most successful media executives. Think of someone who represents where you want to be. What one question would you ask them if you had 5 minutes with them today? The 5-minute commitment protocol combines all these insights into a simple system. 1. When you learn something valuable, immediately schedule 5 minutes to implement it. 2. Break that implementation down to its smallest possible form. 3. Tell someone specific exactly what you'll do and when. 4. Link the new action to an existing habit. 5. Focus on identity-based language. I am the kind of person who. What one 5-minute action could you take today that would begin closing your action gap? Commit to it now before this video ends. Remember the question I posed earlier about disciplined people using less willpower? The answer is that truly disciplined people don't rely on willpower at all. They build systems that make action automatic and inevitable. They understand that willpower is a limited resource, but systems are sustainable. Let's recap the 5 techniques that separate the 3% who succeed from the 97% who only dream. First, Jim Rohn's law of diminishing intent. Act immediately when motivation is highest, as Sarah Blakely did with her Spanx prototype. Second, Jordan Peterson's miniaturization technique. Break down goals into tiny actions, like Jerry Seinfeld writing just 1 joke per day. Third, the environmental design strategy. Structure your surroundings to make good choices automatic, as Barack Obama and Mark Zuckerberg did with their clothing choices. Fourth, the identity shift technique. Change how you view yourself to change your actions, as Dwayne Johnson demonstrated in his transformation from broke football player to wrestling superstar. Fifth, the social acceleration method. Leverage accountability relationships, as Oprah Winfrey did with Maya Angelou. We also identified the 5 mental blocks that create the action gap. 1. The comfort illusion. 2. The magnitude mistake. 3. The perfection trap. 4. The identity illusion. 5. The isolation factor. As Jim Rohn perfectly stated, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. The action gap is nothing more than the space where that bridge hasn't yet been built. Starting right now, which camp will you join? The 3% who act or the 97% who only dream? The decision doesn't require talent, money, or special connections, just the willingness to act on what you already know. Jordan Peterson reminds us that the purpose of life is finding the largest burden that you can bear and bearing it. Jim Rohn taught that you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction right now. In the next 24 hours, commit to taking one small action that bridges your knowledge action gap. Remember to start ridiculously small, act while motivation is hot, and embrace imperfection. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe for more actionable content on personal development. Comment below with, "I'm in the 3%, and share one action you're taking today to close your own action gap. One more thing before you go, as Jim Rohn so powerfully said, your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change. What changes will you make today to join the extraordinary 3%? The gap between knowing and doing is where dreams go to die, but it's also where your new life is waiting to be born. The choice is yours. Hey, incredible growth seekers. Wow, what a journey. If this video resonated, subscribe now for more life-changing content. Join our community of self-improvers. Smash that like button to fuel more content on mindfulness, goal setting, and emotional intelligence. Share this video to create a ripple of positive change. Comment below about your growth journey. Your insights shape our content. Next week, boosting self-confidence and overcoming limiting beliefs. Don't miss it. Every interaction brings us closer to a world of empowered individuals. Let's make personal development global. Stay inspired, keep growing. Your best self awaits. Let's unlock it together.